YouTube, so third time's the fucking charm, right? I have tried to make this video twice already and my camera keeps cutting out on me. Although admittedly I got a lot farther the last time, which is somehow worse. But I wanted to talk a little bit about me dropping out of college. So there were really 3 factors in me dropping out of college. I'd been in college for 2 years at that point, and I had a couple of things that weren't going right with it. Aside from the general fact that I didn't make any friends in college and I was totally miserable and by myself all the time. And coming out of high school, I had just lost most of my friends. So I really didn't have anyone in my life, and that sucked. And so it made it very hard for me to stay motivated during all of it. But there were 3 more practical reasons why I just really didn't fit with college and I decided to not continue with it. The first one was I was dropped into remedial math classes. I had scored 1 point too low on my ACTs to automatically get into college level math. And so I took the school's test, and this was community college, by the way. I took the school's test to see what math I tested into. And the grading system was bullshit. Because I did very well on the real basic math portions like basic addition, basic subtraction, multiplication, division. All of that was fine. It's just once I got into algebra, algebra and geometry actually, my big problems were I couldn't remember the formulas anymore because it had been so long since I had taken a math class, which is a totally different video that I'll get into another time. But like I had my social worker, who was also my counselor, advised me to finish all of my math credits in my sophomore year. So I hadn't had math for 2 years at this point. And so when I tested, I just didn't remember enough of the formulas. Like if I had been, like, they just didn't give you the formulas. You had to remember how to do it by yourself. And you weren't allowed notes or anything. And I just didn't remember the formulas. So I failed most of that portion. And instead of grading me with weighted grades in like each section, it was all just graded as one thing. And I did so poorly on the algebra and geometry section that it tanked my whole grade. And so they put me in the most basic math class they had, and I had to start all over. And in order to even get to college math, I was told I had to take 4 remedial classes. 4 remedial classes that I had to pay for. I had to take them one at a time. I couldn't like take 2 remedial math classes at once. I couldn't just like you had to take them one by one, which meant that at the very minimum I was going to be there for 5 semesters instead of the 4 I had planned on. And there was no way to avoid that. I could have taken like a summer class or something, but like, sorry, I'm having a weird thing over here. Don't worry about it. But anyway, I would have had to take like a summer class or had to take an extra semester at the end. And that's if everything had gone well, and it did not. So I also had another problem, which was the fact that I couldn't decide on like what I was even going to school for. I had no idea what I was doing in college. I had no prep for college. Teachers really didn't think I was going to graduate on time, I guess. It was really weird. It was really weird looking back on it. I had a letter in academics. By the way, putting this out there. I had a letter in academics. I was an honor roll student all 4 years of high school. Well, technically 3.5 because I graduated early. But the point is, like, I was an excellent student. I was smart. My teachers liked me. There was no reason for anyone to think that I wasn't going to graduate and want to go to college. Like, there was really no reason to think that, and yet it totally happened. And so I got no help preparing for college, and I didn't even apply to colleges because I didn't fully understand how it worked, and they never talked to me about it. And about 2 months before I was supposed to take my early graduation, one of my teachers was like, so what colleges have you applied to? And I was like, I haven't applied to fucking anything. I didn't know I was supposed to at this point. I thought that happened later because I didn't know anything about college or application process because no one fucking talked to me about it. And how are you supposed to know about something when nobody is talking to you about it? And I really mean nobody. I mean, nobody at my school did, but also my family didn't ask me about it. And so then I kind of talked to my family about it, and I was like, well, I didn't apply anywhere. And they were like, what do you mean you didn't apply anywhere? And I'm like, nobody fucking told me I was supposed to start applying at some point recently, or even how to go about it, or nobody talked to me about schools or what I wanted to do after high school. And so they were like, well, it's kind of late now. It's like December, and most places, you know, they've already taken in applications, they've already made some decisions, and I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous, right? I guess not. I guess that's how it is, but I kind of missed the cutoff for a lot of college applications. So I ended up in community college, which was fine. I mean, a lot of people go there for like their degrees and stuff. And that's fine, and you get an associate's degree and you get like 2 years out of the way, and it's a little bit less expensive, except for the fact that now I was going to be spending a minimum of 2.5 years there just to get my math credits. And not only that, but those math classes were eating up time in my schedule that I could have been using to get other credits, so it was actually pushing me back even farther from getting my degree. And so that was a big factor. The other big factors were my last semester there. So my last semester was 2011, the fall semester, and I was taking 4 classes. I was taking, you know, I can't even remember one of the classes I was taking. That's how much I don't remember about that semester. I think it was a psychology class. I think it was. That's the one that makes the most sense to me. Because I know all the classes I took in college, I have trouble putting them in order of when I took them, because it all kind of meshes together at this point. But I'm pretty sure I was taking a psychology class as one of them, and then I was taking one of the remedial math classes, an algebra class, which was fine, because at that point I was like, I actually do need some algebra refreshers before I take any other classes going forward, because I did so badly on that, and I just can't remember it. And so a refresher doesn't really hurt at this point. It was more the other 2 classes, which were so insulting to just the intelligence of everyone in those classes. Even the people who like really needed to be there and weren't good at math and really needed really basic stuff. Like, the teachers were just totally rude and insulting about the way they did everything and treated us like we were fucking idiots, which isn't fair. Not everyone has a good grasp of math, and it doesn't make us stupid. I actually have a great grasp of math, by the way. I, for fun, created an equation to determine how much and what how much meat and what cuts of meat you can get from a pig based on inputting the weight, which includes taking out a certain percent for skeletal mass and other organs that don't really become food, and then you get like the actual muscle mass that turns into stuff like ribs and ham and shit like that. I actually did all of that for fun for a fantasy book I was writing, because I thought it might come up and it might be useful to have the information on how to butcher a 20,000-pound pig. Just for fun. And I did that, and I actually have all those equations, and they are very accurate and based on a lot of scientific data that I researched for fucking fun. So I'm good at math, just by the way. I can totally do it. It's just a matter of it's not the most interesting thing for me, and sometimes I have trouble focusing on it. And I think there's ways to teach math that are better than the ways most people teach math. Like, there are ways you can keep students interested in anything. I had some fantastic math teachers, and I also had some terrible math teachers. And some do a better job of keeping people focused on learning and actually getting them to learn something, as opposed to just, like, throwing numbers at them and saying, here's information, just take it. Anyway, but yeah, the 2 other things. My last semester, which was the fall semester of 2011. I wasn't sure what I was doing there, and I decided that maybe it would be fun to do like a travel degree, because you can do a lot with that. Like, I know a lot of like places like museums that would go really well towards being like, oh, I can, you know, be a docent, I can be a volunteer, I can work as a tour guide kind of thing, or you can use that kind of stuff to become a travel agent, which there's actually a ton of jobs that I have seen for looking for travel agents in my area. So I thought it was a really good idea. But they only had one actual travel class at my college. And I was like, maybe I should transfer. And they were like, no, you should do a business degree, because that works for anything, which was a fucking lie. So what I ended up doing was taking their one travel class, which was online. And that was a fucking mistake, because I can't focus on an online class. There's no like real classroom setting, which is something I definitely need, and there is just no motivation to do any of it because it doesn't feel very real. I need kind of that real life, going to class, being there, seeing a real teacher, seeing real classmates, pressure to get things done, because I'm a bit of a procrastinator. Wow, words much. But yeah, so that didn't really work out. I failed that class because I just never did any of the work, which is my own fault. Don't get me wrong, it is. But, you know, it's also not totally my fault because it's just, online classes are not for everybody. That's the very much truth of that. But what really fucking pushed me over the edge was the business class I take. I took a business introduction class, and one of the things we had to do was this big project where we tracked stocks. And we were given a certain amount of money to buy stocks with. And by this, it was all fake. You just picked a stock, you picked the price of it, you spent what you had, and then you tracked what you bought. The teacher put the decimal point in the wrong fucking space for the amount of money we were supposed to have. Some of the students actually inquired about that, and she corrected it for them, but she didn't correct it to the whole class. So when I turned in my assignment, all of my math was based on the wrong number that she originally gave us, and she failed me for it. And it was a huge portion of my grade. So I got my grade knocked down to a really shitty C. And I was just so mad because I'd failed one class, that C had just tanked my freaking grade point average, and I didn't even know what I was doing there still. And clearly business wasn't the right option for me. And now I had wasted all of this time. I still was really behind on where my credits were supposed to be for having been in college for 2 years. And I just gave up. I was like, what am I doing here? What's the point? There was no point. I shouldn't have been in that position. I shouldn't have been going to a college that was taking a ton of my money and I was getting no credits for it, even though I did pretty well in most of my classes. I mean, those last two were outliers. Like, they were shitty grades, and one of them was my fault, and one of them was not my fault. I will not, sorry, shaky lens, but that was not my fault. There was no way in hell that I should have been counted wrong for that when that was her error, not mine. But I was. And so I quit. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm wasting all of my college fund, which wasn't a lot to begin with, on taking these classes that are getting me nowhere. I'm hardly closer to my degree than I was a year ago at that time. And I thought maybe I'd go back to college once I figured out what I wanted to do, but nothing I really want to do really requires a degree. So I never went back. And I think that's fine. I think that if you are in college and it is not working out for you, don't feel too terribly afraid that being a dropout is going to ruin your life. It doesn't have to ruin your life. Not everything can be fixed with a college degree. And the way things are right now in the job market, sometimes getting a degree isn't going to help you that much. I mean, right now I'm stuck in a job that I'm not too happy with, but that's not a good example of what might be out there. You just kind of have to look hard and hope that you can find something, but like, don't just throw a ton of money at college just to figure out that you're not supposed to be in college. It doesn't have to be the end all be all for everyone. And I don't want people to be afraid of like saying they're a college dropout and having people like treat them differently, because it really doesn't get you treated any differently. If you're intelligent, and even if you're not intelligent, like, people aren't going to see you any differently than they already see you by saying, yeah, I dropped out of college. From what I can tell, it has literally not affected anyone's opinion of me, except for maybe my grandparents, but that's more of a different issue. Alrighty, I just kind of wanted to talk about that because it's a big part of my life, and it was super stressful, and I hope that if anyone else is going through that, they can kind of learn something from what I went through, and also hopefully learn not to get screwed over by colleges, because even if you want to go to college, like, don't let them do what they did to me to you. Like most colleges should not be making you take a bunch of remedial courses like that. I'm sorry. They shouldn't. You should just be able to take that entry-level math course, even if, like, let's say you did really badly. They shouldn't be making you take a bunch of shit like that. It shouldn't be prerequisites for stuff like that. And the funny thing is, I actually have heard recently that the college I went to has dropped that course of manner. You do not have to take remedial math classes anymore because more than one person had my problem. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there and talk about something that was a really big part of my life. So I hope everyone has a great night, and I will see you all tomorrow.